He is the champion quarterback of Super Bowl 35. Joining us here on the Rich Eisen Show after Super Bowl 56, none other than Trent Dilfer. How you doing, Trent?
That was a lot of hair ago, Rich.
You and me both, sir.
22 years ago, I saw some pictures this week, some videos, and I was holding on for dear life for my hair.
You and me both, sir. You and me both.
Bad hair years.
You and me both, sir. There was the word of the day was Rogaine. You know, haven't heard that word in a while, but that's the word that was the phrase that pays back in the day. Right then.
Amen.
You know. Okay, so I will just say, what did you think of the game last night? What do you think of that?
My big takeaways, and we can get into this.
Mm-hmm.
Sean McVay with one of the all-time greatest coaching performances, if you look at it year long, that I've seen. We can go into that. And then the game kind of summed up a lot how I thought it would unfold. Bengals could do hardly anything offensively. Really, their whole offense was two plays in the passing game, both kind of chuck and ducks, one that should have been called back, and a decently solid run game, but not much there in the passing game besides the two plays. Dominant defensive line performance by the Rams, and then really the big takeaway was the two best players on the field playing their best when it mattered the most, Kupp and Stafford. And I think that was really the sign-off, the drop-the-mic moment of the Super Bowl was Stafford, who had struggled from the interception in the end zone and his first 5 possessions in the second half, really until that drive where him and Kupp just kind of willed it, and McVay gave him the keys of the car, and they finished the deal.
6.5 minutes to go, needing 78 yards and a touchdown, and that's what they wound up doing, leaving some time left on the clock. But Kupp on that drive, the fourth and short run, where the whole stadium had their. I mean, I was in that spot that the whole stadium held its collective breath on that one. And then obviously the throw to Kupp over the middle, over outstretched arms. What a dynamite dart by Stafford, and then the game winner. The drive itself. You mentioned about the McVay game plan for changing up. I mean, they had to change it up in the middle the minute that Odell went down, right? I mean, that changed everything. It seemed to me in the game.
It really
Trent.
did. No, I thought it was a little overblown on the telecast that, Stafford didn't have any weapons. He still had Cooper Kupp. It wasn't like he was left out there naked. I think the Rams did a really good job, McVay especially, the play caller. Kevin O'Connell probably had something to do with this as well, is in between series when they were struggling, because they really struggled there for, I think it was 5 or 6 possessions in a row, trying to find a way. How do you call plays or move Kupp around so he's the primary on every play down the stretch? It's not as easy as you think. I think I went back. Here's what hit my brain. Nick Saban tells this great story. One of the greatest lessons he learned in football was when he was playing high school football and they won a championship and their best player got the ball in the biggest moment of the season. And his takeaway from that was players over plays. And you have to get your best player the ball in critical moments. And I can see, I bet you Sean McVay and Kevin O'Connell have heard the same interview. And they're like, hey, down the stretch here, we have to find a way that Kupp touches the ball on almost every play. And to create some of that stuff on the sideline, I bet you some of that stuff was not in the game plan. It wasn't like they had repped it during the week. It was probably stuff that they put in on the sideline and made adjustments, and then Stafford has the ability, the connection with Kupp to get him the ball in some really tight windows. I thought it was crazy how the game's won. I mean, you quarterback sneak it on first down from the 1.5, 1.25, and then you throw a fade. I mean, that's not a play sequence that you see very often. Quarterback sneak, fade. Like that, it's usually quarterback sneak, quarterback sneak, quarterback sneak, then fade on fourth down. So I just think McVay at some point, and I haven't talked to him, but at some point in that game, him and Kevin got on the phones. They're just like, listen, this thing comes down to those two guys making plays, and we have to find a way to let them do it.
Trent Dilfer here on the Rich Eisen Show, Super Bowl 35 champion, Beyond the X's and O's podcast as well, to go inside this man's outstanding football brain right here on the Rich Eisen Show. What did you make of the officiating and the flags that came out at the very end after 58 minutes of hardly seeing one on the field?
Outside the egregious missed call on the long touchdown,
that was.
Besides that, I liked how it was officiated. They let them play, and then people are saying, "Well, why don't you let them play down the stretch?" I mean, those were bad calls too. The one that they said there wasn't much there across the middle on Kupp, the middle backer 55 holds him. You can see him hold his waist and pull him back. I mean, when there's an effort to hold the player from getting where he needs to get, I mean, that has to be called, especially in the tight red. And that's the other thing fans need to understand. The closer you get in the red zone, the closer the refs are to all these plays, so they have a better view of them. So I had no problem with the officiating outside of the one call, the no call when Ramsey gets his face mask twist. I mean, fans are always going to complain about that stuff. I get it. Players do too. Coaches do. But at the end of the day, looking at it from a 60-minute game, I thought it was pretty well officiated.
Trent Dilfer here on the Rich Eisen Show. Okay, so how do you think Stafford's feeling this morning? What's that feeling like, Trent?
Obviously fulfilled. I tell people all the time, I think you can talk to most quarterbacks that win this game. It's more of a sense of relief. It's more fulfillment. You kind of expect it. I think every quarterback that wins it expects to win it. I think that's one of the things that, as I've talked to my peers about it, that you just convince yourself and your team that there is no other option but winning this game. So when it's over and you do it, you're just like, well, yeah, we expected to do it. It's not the elation that everybody thinks it is. It's more just satisfaction. You're usually really happy for your teammates more than yourself. And then honestly, it doesn't take long before you're like, okay, next. That's how champions think, is no rear view mirror, appreciate the moment, and then move on to the next moment. And the next moments for the Rams are going to be challenging because of how they invested into this season and this particular game.
Yeah, I want to maybe hit that a little bit with you in a bit of a page turn in a second, but lingering on Stafford, a lot of folks in this past week saying that the next for him eventually, when it's all said and done, is Canton, Ohio now, because if he got the ring, now he does. Would you think that's the case?
I think so. I think he's deserving of it. I think people are sympathetic of his Detroit years, and yet he was still highly productive. I've always put Stafford in this category, a guy that was at his best when he needed to be at his best. Like, he was playing so many times from behind. He had so many of these heroic comebacks. Yes, he put his team in those positions sometimes because he tried to do too much in Detroit. But he was always one of those top 5 guys you wanted the ball in his hand, down 4 with 90 seconds to go. And he proved it. I mean, he did it in the playoffs, and it wasn't 90 seconds, but he did the final drive in the Super Bowl to win the game as well. It's kind of how he's wired. A lot of Favre in him. I've always felt that was the best comparison, where they might make some mistake, they might make you scratch your head sometimes, but you trust them when the game's on the line, and I think he is worthy. I think if you win a Super Bowl and you are highly productive, I'm obviously not putting myself in this category, but if you win a Super Bowl and you've been productive for a long period of time as a quarterback, you deserve to be in the Hall of Fame.
Well, I mean, and he was handpicked the minute that he decided, along with his wife, to make that maneuver to go into the Lions front offices and say, I want out. Les Snead and Sean McVay say that's the guy, and then that's the guy that leads them to the podium. And I guess now cycling back to the way you started about greatest coaching job year to year, post to post, wire to wire that you've seen in a while from Sean McVay. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, let me put a bow on the Stafford thing because something hit my brain while you were talking.
Go for it.
There was a LeBron commercial in the midst of the Super Bowl. Old LeBron with young LeBron on the bed, and old LeBron says something at the very end, to be legendary, you got to bet on yourself. And I think a lot of people probably just let it go by him, but then you watch Stafford shortly after that commercial win the Super Bowl. And it's exactly what LeBron said. I mean, in this commercial, Stafford bet on himself. He put all the chips on the table and said, I want to go win a Super Bowl, and I'm willing to take some chances here. And he did it. And I think that to your point, that's why he will be legendary and he'll be in the Hall one day. The thing with McVay is this. You could argue it's one of the greatest, most challenging coaching jobs in the history of the NFL. And people are going to go, what? Well, think about it. Think what him and Les Snead have done. They completely mortgaged the future, supposedly. That's the narrative the NFL has put on them for sacrificing draft picks to get players on their roster now to then go win the game. I mean, they were ridiculed by quote-unquote experts in league circles. It's not the Parcellian way. It's not the Belichickian way. It's not the 49ers way. It wasn't the Cowboys way. It's their way. And a lot of people, I mean, there was a very strong narrative when they were 7-4 headed into Week 13 that this was the wrong thing to do, because not only are they not going to get to the Super Bowl this year, but they have no chance in years to come because they have no draft capital. And everybody in the NFL, everybody, all your friends, all my friends say the same thing. Oh, build for the future. Set it up for the future. Why? Why, when you have Aaron Rodgers, don't you mortgage the future to get him players now, or Tom Brady or Matthew Stafford? There are certain moments where you're like, we have a very short window here, and we got to do it now. And they did it. They took a huge chance. And it worked. And there's a lot of people around league circles this morning that are pissed that it worked because their paradigm has been completely blown up. The Browns are set up forever with all this draft capital. Yep, they're sitting at home too. And they're probably going to be sitting at home next year. And they're probably going to be sitting at home the year after that with all this draft capital. So I think that for Sean McVay, he took a lot of criticism for that. But the hardest thing is this, the personalities. The personalities in that locker room, OBJ, Von Miller, Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald, Matthew Stafford, go on and on and on. And to get all these big personalities, all this star power to come together, and if I say this all the time, look at what they talked about when the game was over. They didn't talk about, we had more talent. They talked about coming together, being selfless, cheering for one another, being happy for one another, doing the hard little things day in and day out, the grind things, all the stuff that never gets talked about, but all the stuff that really matters. Sean McVay is the catalyst for all that. He's the one that brought them all together. He's the one that messaged it. He's the one that built the culture that OBJ can walk into as a supposedly disgruntled diva wide receiver and be everything but that. That is a massive, massive thing that really, really matters. And Sean McVay did it. And then you got to think about this. Go back to these coaches that won championships. Belichick, Parcells, Walsh, Jimmy Johnson. They didn't have the pressure of social media. They didn't have every single thing you do being blown up out there and, 10x the drama to it because everybody's seeing what's going on in your room. I mean, he's had to deal with a modern media machine and social media with all the negative narratives against how they're doing it, balancing all these personalities, being 7-4 leading into Week 13, taking all the heat, and then guess what they do? They win 9 out of 10, and they didn't do it glamorously. They did it gritty. And I think it's one of the greatest coaching jobs we've ever seen.
Trent Dilfer here on the Rich Eisen Show. Couple more minutes left with him. All right, Trent, let's go now to the Bengals side of it. What next there? Just shore up in front, right? And just keep at it. The defense was terrific. Defense has been terrific. Defense is, Trey Hendrickson is a guy that many people know, and then outside of that, nothing. The weapons look to be set. Burrow looks to be next level. Is it as simple as that, Trent?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I root for him. I was at one of their weddings this summer, so I have friends on that team. I love Joe Burrow. I love Jamar Chase. I don't think this is going to be a team that contends every year. They play in a brutal division with some of the best coaches in football. I don't want to say luck. That'd be a terrible word. They were very fortunate to get to this game. They lived by the hair of their chinny chin chin. I don't think they have enough sustainable star power outside the two big ones on offense. I do think the runner's pretty darn good. I believe consistency offensively is not through stars, it's through bigs. Their bigs just don't cut it, and it's not like you can just go find 4 new ones. I think this is going to be a team that next year really struggles to get back to the playoffs. They may, because the quarterback's so good. But I don't see this being a team that year in and year out, especially in that division, you just chalk them in like you do the Chiefs as a team that's going to contend for the AFC.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Damn, Trent, these people are in the they're in the football outhouse right now. They really feel it, right? And I'm walking out of that stadium. I was next to some guy just said to me, he goes, I can't believe this happened to my team in the Super Bowl again. He goes, I remember the last one. Now this happened again. I'm like, don't worry, you got Joe Burrow. But it's more than that. It's
way more than that. Do you think Baltimore's going to get worse or better? They're going to get better. Pittsburgh actually will be better without Ben. They're going to find a solution at quarterback. Cleveland's hard-nosed, tough. Don't know if they're a dominant team, but they're tough. I mean, it's just a brutal division. And then you have Kansas City. They got by them once, but do you really – if they played that game 10 times, and every listener right now outside a Bengals fan, how many times do you think the Chiefs win that game? I think they win it 8 or 9 out of 10. And the Chiefs are only going to get better. The Raiders, I think, are going to get better. I think there's a lot of teams in AFC that are more talented and are going to get better, and it's going to be tough sledding for the Bengals.
All right, and then last one, what about next for the Rams? You already heard going into the game that McVay's kicking tires on maybe media. He's getting married, and Aaron Donald said after the game the retirement rumors that Rodney Harrison put out there on NBC, he sidestepped them. He didn't say that's crazy. He literally said, I'm going to take some time here. What do you think about the Rams next?
I think the only choice is to wait and see. I mean, there's so many unknowns. I do think Stafford's going to have to take less money if they want to keep it together. I do think you're going to have some of your stars make selfish decisions economically if they want to keep it together. And I think that's step number one for Les Snead, is start having those meetings and figuring out the future. And then there's a real possibility that you may be in a rebuild mode. You know, that some of these stars move on. You open up cap space and you start rebuilding. But they knew that going into this thing, right? They mortgaged the farm to win this game, and in my opinion, that's enough. They did it.
I agree. They'll just look at their trophy, right? As everyone's on the clock on the Thursday night in Vegas, they'll just say, "Here's the trophy. The Malibu sunset is gleaming off my trophy." Right? That's basically what they'll say.
Amen.
You know.
Amen.
Trent, thanks for the time. Look for my call as we get into the talent evaluation portion of the campaign, beyond the X's and O's pod, and then, of course, everywhere on Twitter at Dilfer's Dimes. Thanks for the call, Trent. You're the best, man.
Looking forward to it, pal. Have a great day.
Thank you, sir. Trent Dilfer, Super Bowl champion, right here on The Rich Eisen Show. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.